this is Renee with DelaneyJaneCards. Welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be using Simon Says Stamp Ornate Ornaments, and we are going to, I guess, do a study in black and white. I wanted to do something super interesting, and I didn't want to use bright colors. Now these ornaments, they lend themselves to really beautiful coloring or heat embossing, or they're stunning. I think last year I did a set in pink with them, and they were so beautiful. But this year I wanted to do black and white. I had this idea that I really wanted the cards to look like a black and white image. What I did was stamped out the 3 ornaments on 6 panels. Had I orientated my stamps a little better, I could have stamped and then turned my paper and stamped, and I could have gotten all of my images on 3 pieces of paper. But you know, hindsight is 20/20. So I used my cool gray markers for this, and I used a lot of them. I wanted these to have lots of depth and dimension. I wanted them to have lots of contrast, and I wanted the blend to be super smooth, and I didn't want to have to go lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest, because, well, I had 6 of these panels to color, and that's 18 ornaments, and I just didn't have time for all the double coloring. So if you like lightest to darkest, darkest to lightest, you do you, but this is what I did here. So each of these ornaments I colored kind of with the super dark in the creases there, and I did use black. I went all the way to my 100 marker. I didn't use much of it, but I used a little bit because I absolutely needed the contrast in here. I wanted these to look, well, black and white, but I kind of wanted them to look like they maybe were silver ornaments, in a black and white photo. So I colored all 6 panels, and then I had left my stamps in my mini Misty here, and I was deciding which embossing powder I was going to emboss these with, because yes, we are going to emboss them, because coloring them black and white was just not enough. And I chose to emboss them with this Wow Sparkle Silver embossing powder. There, I was just checking to make sure that I had good impression, which I just made sure by restamping. And I used this Wow here, this Wow Sparkle. This stuff is so pretty. But what it did for me was allowed me to get all of my coloring done with my ink on 3 stamping, and then heat emboss over it, so it looks like I colored with my Copics on heat embossed image. I don't know. I mean, I've seen people do it. I've done it a little bit, but not like this. There was way too much that I would have had to avoid, and I really wanted that additional silver sparkle. So this is how I would recommend doing that. But I did all 6 panels the same exact way. I just love how that looks when they are embossed and pretty and shiny. So then I used the coordinating dies to line up each one. And here, how I had stamped them, they were not, they were too close for me to put all 3 dies on there, which was kind of irritating. So I just ran them through like this, 2 panels at a time, and finish that off. And I used this silver cardstock from Michael's, and then I pulled out some black and white papers that I have. I think this black and white set here is maybe from Scrapping for Less at one time. I'm not sure. And then I have a couple of black and white paper pads, and I was just trying to see what I would really like best. It's crazy that you can make 6 cards with 1 piece of pattern paper, but you can. I wanted this tiny little pattern here. You can see I flipped through the paper house pad there just to see if there was anything else. And then I pulled out my Misty again, and I had checked my Tim Holtz mirror cardstock to see if I could heat emboss on it. And I could. And I hadn't checked this, and I didn't think about it till after I already was knee deep in this project. It does work. I wouldn't recommend it really because it does kind of, the heat from the heat gun does kind of crinkle the surface. I do fix that. You can't see it later, but yeah, it's not something that I would highly recommend. And it really warps it a lot too. You see me put my VersaFine Onyx Black ink on the stamp after I used my Versamark, just because when I originally stamped it down, I decided I was using black embossing powder, and I wanted to make sure if there was any areas that it didn't cover, that it was black. So that's why I went with the VersaFine Onyx Black. And here I debossed my cardstock with that Laser Beams embossing folder from Spellbinders. To me, it looks like the blurry version of a Christmas tree, like 1970s silver Christmas tree where you zoom in on the ornaments, and it just had this feel to me like it needed to be debossed. I also debossed it instead of embossed it because I thought pushing the cardstock in would help with that cracking and kind of make sure that my heat embossing that was done on there didn't crack as well. So I did decide to use some layers on this card. The silver panel has the little strip of pattern paper, and I just cut that 6x6 paper into 1-inch strips. You and I both know that the 6x6 paper pads are never really 6x6, so one of the strips is just a little bit smaller. It is what it is. Nobody is going to be like, hey, the card I got, the strip is just smaller than the strip you got. And then I took these Love from Lizzie black peel-offs and I edged each one of these pieces of pattern paper to make sure that I had a finished edge on them. There were a lot of steps in these cards, but they're simple looking. I don't know. Sometimes I look at a card and I'm like, oh, it's just got so much going on, but it didn't take long. And this card looks very simple in the end, and it had a lot of stuff going on, a lot of details. So there's all my ornaments. Like, that's a crazy amount of ornaments. It's just 18, but it feels crazy. And then I used this black thread here, and I threaded a piece through each ornament, much longer than I really needed, but I didn't want to chase tiny strings around on my desk. So I cut all my pieces first, so I had enough string to go around. And I took a piece of this Be Creative tear tape, or whatever you want to call it here, and put it on the back. I was careful not to press down on that panel because that would have been stuck forever. And then I fiddled with these. This was like the most difficult part of this, was getting the string to go on the back of this panel like I wanted it to. When I adhered these ornaments to, especially the center one, I only put glue on the very center. I didn't put it on any of the edge peaks of that star because I did want to tuck the other ornaments underneath, and I didn't want to have to place them first. That star was really important to have the position on that correct, and I can just tuck everything else underneath. Just putting a little glue. Like I said, this was probably the biggest part of this struggle here for these cards, was adhering the string. I guess, I don't know. I could have used like, I don't know, maybe like thin silver wire, and then I wouldn't have had so much issue, but I don't really use that in my card making. So I adhered this silver debossed, heat embossed, layered, decorated panel to my black cardstock. A very thin black border to offset this. And I was using liquid glue, so I did hold these panels down just a little bit when I put them down. All that texture from the debossing, because it's embossed on the other side, so there's a lot of layers. So I made sure that that was held down. And then I layered it onto the black and then onto the white, and then onto some additional black. It really makes it look like an art piece. It's super flat, but it is just, I don't know, stunning in my opinion, all the black and white and silver. So then I used my Nuvo clear glitter overlay pen thingamajigger here, and I put this on all of the ornaments, making sure that I had them completely covered and there were no like dry spots, because ornaments that are black and white and sparkly embossed, and they should shine and shimmer, and they should be so pretty that you don't want to put the card down. And I think that's what we got here. Then I used my glossy accents, which I'm trying to get through because I noticed it's starting to get yellow. I just mentioned it a few videos back that I'd had it a while and it didn't really seem like it was getting yellow. Well, I think it might be now. So I just put this on the star. I didn't put it on any of the other ornaments. And I actually asked on my Instagram when I made these if I should add it to the other ornaments, and it was kind of mixed. I didn't put it on the rest of them because I wanted to really highlight that star. You know, that's kind of what Christmas is about. Anyway, here are some still shots of the cards. I would love to hear your thoughts on these. They are super beautiful in my opinion. I really like the black, white, and silver, and I think that they are, I don't know, kind of fancy. Thank you for stopping by, and as always, give cards generously. Bye!